That better? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Mother? Seems quite loud, the microphone, like. Yeah, that's better. Not again. Can you hear me, Mother? Seems quite loud, like, the microphone, like, quite loud. It's back, but it's going to build up. It's back, it's going to build up. It's back, it's going to build up. Is that better? Is that better? Sounds like I've jiggered it. I don't know what I've jiggered it, I figured it. It's the feedback, it's starting to build up. It's alright at the moment, but it's starting to build up. Sounds like I've jiggered it. Sounds like I know. I think you might be right. I've got a feeling we play that. I've knocked everything off apart from this. Is that working? Seems to be working now. Everybody hear me all right now? Well, that's 10 minutes took up. I don't know whether something's come on behind YouTube. What I've done is, can you hear me? It's Joan hovering here. I don't know if you can hear me. I need to know that you can hear me before I. Oh, you can hear me. Right, fine, that's all right. So it's what it was. There's something behind in the thing. So I've got the windows open because it's red hot in here. The sun's been on here all afternoon. So the door open, the windows open. Right. So this bit here, I don't know if you can see it. This is the bit I was just fiddling with and making this afternoon, so that you could see the comments on there. Hi, Alison. I'll say hello to everybody because everybody's vanished while I was messing around with the microphones. But at least I can. Sounds like sleigh bells. Yeah. It's working there now. So there was something playing behind. Good, everyone can hear me. So this bit here, I thought I would just use for like at the beginning when people are coming on, so that you can see what comments are coming on your screen. The problem would be all the comments are coming from YouTube. I haven't seen anything coming from our Facebook group. So if anybody's on the Facebook group and can make a comment, that would be ideal, so that I can see. I'm not gonna. If I leave this on, you're gonna have a smaller screen for doing the painting. So I'm just gonna leave it on the beginning, and then just go to a fuller size for me, so that we get the you get the full painting. And what happens now if someone makes a comment? If somebody does make a comment, I could actually sort of fetch it in. I think I can. Oh yeah, there you go. I can fetch. So if you want to say something, I can actually fetch it in, and you can hear it. You can see it there. So if you've got something sensible to say, if you've got something sensible to say, I'll plop it onto the screen. So that's what I was going to do for the. Like I said, I can leave it on, but the thing is, your video, when you get the video, will have all this on as well. So I think it might be better just to sort of go to main window like that. Go to main window, and just when you say something like that, I can fetch your comment in, so I can do that. So that's something I can do. I'm going to leave it like that because if I do it the other way, you're having a smaller picture to paint. We are going to paint, you know. We are going to paint at some point. Just had to get rid of all that rubbish that was down there. That rubbish. Now Zoom, I haven't a clue with Zoom. We tried on, and was it Tuesday afternoon? And the Zoom was doing what that is doing. It was altering Facebook comments and that were in, YouTube was in, and Zoom was sort of 15 seconds difference. So all the voice, everything was. I couldn't cope. There was that many voices, sort of doing stuff and echoing back again. So you've got on. I've got Facebook users, but what you're going to do on the Facebook, I sent if you're on this broadcast, because obviously we don't want this on Tuesday morning. I send it out to Facebook in general, but we don't want these lessons, because you're paying for these lessons. We don't want them going out to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. So I've made it just to the Facebook art group. So what you've got to do is there's a link on there. I put it on. There's a link for Ecam. You have to go to that Facebook art group, click that link, and give permission. I think you just click a button. Just have to do it once. You don't have to do it all the time. Click the button, and it'll then it'll put you. All I'm getting up here. Wait a second. I'll show you. All I'm getting from Facebook people is that just the Facebook user. So you have to actually click on to that link I sent, the link I put in the group. Allow each can permission to use your face and name, and then I'll be able to see who you are. Because Facebook user, I haven't a clue who it is. So when you type in at the moment, if you type your name in, I'll know. Right. Where we at? I don't even know where I'm at now. All right, there we go. Right, main window. Right. So you can see how bright the sun's coming through there. Being blasting through. So I've got comments on what Facebook, which sounds something. You have comments on Facebook which sound silly. Hiya Janet, you're right. You missed the raucous noises. I have comments on Facebook which sound silly. I don't know. I haven't got any silly comments up here. I know people sounds like I know. Sorry. We'll get started. We'll get started, and no doubt you'll catch up. Right. So I can see you. I can see faces. I can see logos, faces. It's been a long week, this. Where are we at? Right, Photoshop. This is the picture we're going to. This is the picture we started on last Wednesday. So that's what we were doing last Wednesday. I'll just zoom in a bit for you. Gillian, the email link has taken me straight to you. It should do, yeah. Because you're on YouTube, Gillian. It should just take you to it. You shouldn't be. You don't have to sign in or nothing. You don't have to sign in to watch it. Facebook is different. The comments are separate. It's only YouTube which have a panel on the right side making the screen smaller. We'll just have to work it and see where we get. It's all sort of. I know one thing before we get going. I know one thing, that the company, the American company that make this, which is what you see, you might be watching on YouTube or Facebook, but I'm using a program called Ecam Live, which is what shoves the picture and shoves all the cameras out to YouTube. Seeing all the weird carry-ons. Yeah, I've got that sorted, the weird carry-ons. So what they're going to do, they're working on. They've done a few extras, but what they're working on is making a comments system where it doesn't matter where you comment from, whether YouTube or your Facebook or whatever, so you'll be able to see them all. Hi Jen, you missed everything. You missed all the noise. So I'll get sorted bit by bit, but at the moment I don't know what caused that racket. Something's definitely wrong on the computer. I've turned everything off. That's the only thing I could do. Turn everything. Right, I'm going to start because we're getting nowhere here, and I know you're all keen. So this is the picture that we're going to add to the one we've done. So, like I said, I just pulled two pheasants together. I just went out and grabbed a couple of pheasants, and probably one should have been a female, I suspect, but it doesn't matter. And I've decided to put the tail in front of that one so you can see the long tail, so we can get onto that one. So I'm just zooming a bit for you. There you go. What I'm going to do is fill these with paint first, and then while they're drying, we'll add a little bit of detail to the grasses, etc., and stuff like that. Then we'll come back and start painting all the detail into them. So that's where we got to last week. So we painted all the winter scene in. So anybody who hasn't done this, it's in the current lessons folder. So you'll be able to find it in there. And you can, oh, sorry, I'm losing things here. Right. So you'll be able to find that in your current lessons folder. So right now, I'm just going to paint in onto here. I'll zoom in for you. If it's all a bit haphazard, it's because I'm feeling haphazard with it. Right. Right, I'll zoom in and we'll put the paint into these, and then while they're drying, before I put the detail in, we shall put some twigs and things in and get some other areas in. So first of all, we want the top, the throats and heads in, and that's the body. I'm going to use gouache afterwards, so I'm going to paint it in on completely, and then fetch the colours back out with gouache, mixing gouache in with the other colours. So I'm going to get a nice strong ultramarine for the sort of the top of the head and the throat for the moment, just to get started. That's basically all you want, just to get started, because you've been around for a while now. Right, so concentrate, folks, concentrate. Right, put the head in. It's going to be one colour. I might drop a bit of water in, but it's going to be one colour, and then we're going to build it up. So I'm just putting in, using French ultramarine, just painting the bird's head flat across the top there, down to the big. I know it's bright this, but we're going to tone it all down. Take it back to the eye. Round the back of the head, just flick an odd little patch out here and there for that, like a sense of feathering just on the back. It's bright this, but don't worry, you're going to tone it all down as you go on. And then there's just a little bit into there across the beak, and then round and under the beak, and that sort of comes down to the. Now what we'll do is, let's get this filled in one colour first. Put this down, down around the neck. Like I said, if you've got a comment and you want me to see it, I'll show it onto the screen. So if you do decide you need a question and I see it, I can just do that. I knew that wouldn't work. Oh, there it is. There you go. So I can do that if you've got anything to say. Right. With that, just drop some water in the top. Just some water in the top. And just tease back with it a bit. Just tease it out. Just like doing Yupo paper, except better. Just tease it out so you get a lighter patch into the top of the head. Just there. Drop a bit of water just round the underneath, sort of the middle of the neck area, just there. And then dry your brush and just pull that back a bit as well. The colour will still float in, but because it's all wet, but you're just getting that lighter area there. Now get some crimson in with your blue. Get a separate blue, French ultramarine, and add some crimson to it. So you're just making it stronger with the crimson, and drop that in just on the edge of the beak, under the beak, and just round the back of the neck there, like that. And just let that just float. It'll just blend together. It'll give you that sort of roundness, and then we'll highlight stuff and darken stuff. And if you get any blue down on the paper below, just rub it off. Right, we'll do this one, same thing, just using the French ultramarine, paint in the head. It's sort of a longer head there, sort of the neck sticking up, so it's coming across, down. Got to make this look like a pheasant and not a duck. At the moment it looks like a duck. I know you've got red in and everything like that, and we will get to that. So just fetching that round. It's just a matter of building the body, the sense of body colour up. Underneath like that. And down to the throat. I can hear pheasants out. I can hear the birds singing outside in the hedges. I had some kind of hawk out there. John took a photograph of it while I was what was I doing? I was sorting these pictures out. It looks like a merlin. I've never seen one around here before. Right, same principle. You're quiet now. Drop some water in sort of, this time just sort of around the back of the head a little bit there. And a little bit down the neck. So just into that sort of centre area there. Drop it in. Dry your brush off and just tease it back out. You just create, I know it's bright, it's too bright, but I'm just getting an undercolour. And then use the blue and crimson and just drop that darker under the beak there. Just the back of the eye. And maybe a little bit round there. Just let them run together. That's alright, that's just getting the sort of the first wash. Right, now for the body, we probably use a bigger brush than that. We want to build it up and get a sense of shape, volume to it. And then we're going to go back in and paint in and out. Well, not lift colours out, just paint using gouache in with the colours to paint the shapes in totally. Someone will start lawn mowing in a minute. Right, so body. So what you want is various colours. So you want some burnt sienna. I'm going to just build up a lot of colours and just drop them in and then gradually shape them totally. So burnt sienna, get that. Get some crimson. Don't mix them together at this stage. Just get them separate and just get some strong dark colours. So you've got some burnt sienna, you've got some crimson. I would also get a little bit of cadmium red, just separate as well. And then some cadmium yellow. So you've got sort of 4 colours. You've got your burnt sienna, your crimson. I've got them like here, wait a second, I'll show you. I've got them like here, so burnt sienna, crimson, cadmium red, and I'm just putting some yellow in there. And I'm going to drop these colours and let them blend together and drop darker ones in on the underneath so we get a sense of roundness to it. Right, so I'm going to start with the crimson. Now I'm going to come just underneath that collar, round there, just underneath that collar, just a bit closer. Take it round the back there, just fetch it down. I know they're all bright, don't worry about it. I'm just wanting colours to run together. Take it round the outside edge of that collar and round the shape of the body. And fetch that down to about there-ish. You know where there-ish is, just there. Right, so you got that coming down there to about there. Right, drop burnt sienna into that while it's still wet. Strongish burnt sienna, strong colour, burnt sienna into that while it's wet so it just all blends together. Tell you what you want some yellow ochre. Get some yellow ochre as well, just separate, because the yellow will be too bright. Take the yellow ochre just upwards above the top and just pull that yellow ochre down. Just pull the yellow ochre down into that mix of burnt sienna and red and crimson. And while you're on with the yellow ochre, just take it out. You might have to steer away from that because I'm just going to tease near it because it's probably wet. And I'm just going to use the yellow ochre to go up here, round the beak, like that, and across the top of the body. And now we're going to get burnt sienna and continue it on with burnt sienna. It wants to go along there a bit more. Remember, I just put a wash in here, so I've sort of flooded over top of the bird itself. So it wants to be a bit longer, like that, down to its tail. So more burnt sienna. Quite strong as I'm pulling it out the pan. You've got to do it before anything sort of dries. And you're just dropping the colours in. And you're just trying to create a roundness to the bird. So down there, up the side like that. Now use a little bit of yellow ochre just to come round that edge there. So just pull some yellow ochre wet into there. And just push it back into colour so it all blends. Right, now get some cadmium yellow and just drop that cadmium yellow in round here. You're just pulling it in just to create that lighter area into there. Building the shape up. What you want now, I didn't tell you about this, but you want blue and burnt sienna. So you want French ultramarine. You want crimson, to be quite honest. So you want the usual colours we use when we're trying to make a really dark. So you want French ultramarine, burnt sienna, and crimson. Just get some crimson out the pot there. Mainly on the bluer side, so it's stronger. And you fetch that in underneath. So you want all these sort of colours just ready. Build that up and then just sort of flick it underneath where the wing's going to start there, the tail. The tail feathers are going to start like that. And blend your burnt sienna down into that dark, so just pull it down into it so it's a gradual blend. So just pulling the colours down and getting a gradual blend like that. That's right. All you're doing is trying to get volume to it, a feeling of light and dark on it. And the tail wants to be it wants to be yellow, cadmium yellow along the top with a little bit of yellow ochre on. Cadmium yellow with a little bit of yellow ochre. Just go across the top of the tail. Remember, I'm putting this tail feather in front. So that wants to go along there like that. Join up to there. Just join that in together, just blend it in. Sorry, I moved it down. Right, and then burnt sienna. And take the burnt sienna along the bottom. And let it sort of bleed up into the yellow ochre. Like that. That's fine. That's all right. Probably blend it up a bit farther. You only want a little hint of the sort of the yellow across the top. Just a little hint. And then we want this bird doing, and it's the same principle as that. You'll have to be careful because obviously you've got this wing to deal with. Leave a gap for a collar, maybe a bit bigger than what the one is on the picture. So just leave a sort of a stronger gap for the collar. Paint it down and just at the moment just stay away from the tail feather on there. We can fix it out and tidy it up afterwards. And I don't think it matters if it runs into here, to be honest with you. So you can just go up towards it. This is just the crimson. Fetch it down sort of the front area, like that. Get your yellow ochre and mix it with your burnt sienna. And fetch that round the outside edges. So you're getting like, and fetch that yellow ochre yellow down. And remember, I painted things into it, so I'm having to sort of redevelop the bird's shape because I just whacked paint across it last time, like that. Go back to your crimson and your blue and your burnt sienna, and drop that in stronger along the bottom. It wants to sort of come down to where its feet is there. And its sort of tail is just vanishing off into the grasses just there. And then just blend it in with the yellow ochre burnt sienna. Let it blend in that dark. That's all right. I'll just see what it looks like. I mean, it's nowhere near finished. It's just I just wanted to see what it looks like from a distance. All right, that's all right. You want something bright. I mean, obviously not as bright as that. We're going to tone everything down, and we're going to build feathering up and light feathering up. But that's fine. That just gives you a feeling. Now we've got to let them dry while we're doing that, we'll put some more sense of grasses in. So you can just use a longish brush, thin brush if you want. You can use a rigger if you want, if you've got one. The rigger's sort of like that. You can use that to flick up some stronger grasses here and there, but I'll just use an ordinary one, so just in case you haven't got riggers. So you want sort of burnt sienna yellow ochre. Burnt sienna yellow ochre. I'm just going to mix a little hint of blue in, so it's just a bit darker. So it's just a bit darker. And I'm going to put some grasses up into these areas here. In fact, when this is dry, I might make the grass area here and here stronger so that the bird stands out a bit better. So I'm just going to sort of flick in some grasses up into the picture. I'll zoom in, sorry. So just sort of creating a few grasses here and there. And like I say, a rigger can do it as well, but just stay with that sort of brushwork. You don't need to fill them all over the place, just a few flicks here and there. And then you want what you want now actually is to get a little bit of your gouache. You could probably get away with coloured pencils, you know. You'd probably get away with some coloured pencils on this if you didn't want to use gouache. Just get a little bit of gouache and mix it with some yellow ochre. So, gouache, yellow ochre. In a second, I'll just find some yellow ochre. Even a bit of yellow in there. And you can put some lighter grasses in. They just want to be flicked. You might be better off with a rigger. Just want to be sort of flicked like that. Can you see that them lighter grasses going in? Probably be a bit lighter still. And just sort of flicking a few of the grasses in front of the darker ones. So that you're just building them up. And probably even a little bit of white, so there's a bit of snow on some of them. Like that, just sort of move your brush, keep your brush upright, move it down and sort of touch the paper and rise off the paper. Just here and there. And probably some white ones just coming from the bottom, as though there's snow on parts of them. So just a few little lighter ones just down here. Got to be careful you don't get too much thick gouache on. Might even, when it's dry, I might even put a couple in front of the bird a bit, so they're not just silhouette. I might drag odd bit up into the birds themselves. So it's just little strokes like that of just colouring, just to create some lighter grasses here and there. And you can do the same over here if you wanted. You can just get some, you need a finish brush to do it, but thin, but all you just got to be the delicate flick with just a bit of white. Wants to be watery so that it runs, but not too watery because it'll just dry dull on you. Just one or two, it just breaks up the lines a bit. I think I might make that darker when this is dry. Make that darker so that the bird stands out a bit better from it, and maybe make it a bit more shade just under this one. I think as far as, I didn't know whether to paint the trees any stronger. I think I'm quite happy to leave it. I might scrape them back and get a bit frosted feel. But I think I'm quite happy to leave these trees. If you make them too strong, they'll compete. They'll compete with the pheasants. And we don't want anybody competing with the pheasants. I've just dropped a brush somewhere. Get a blade and just frost them trees back so you get a frosted feel to them. And just turn it round so that I can get. Sorry, you don't need to do anything else with them. I think they're fine just being frosted. Dawn, just watching on my phone from Penrith. Are you alright, Dawn? Everything alright over there? You missed all the trouble that's over here. They just wouldn't keep quiet, the people, just making a noise all the time while I was trying to concentrate. Right, I'll just scrape that little bit of bird muck out there. You can actually use a blade if you wanted. Wait a second, I'll zoom it. If you wanted to really get some fine bits, you can just, can you see, just a flick with the corner of a razor blade would get you some as well. So you can flick in like that. But we'll put darker shadows under so the birds are tied to the ground better. They're drying out, so we can start working on them. So what you want really is to mix your colours. Use a fine brush. Like I said, you might actually. One second, I'll just get a coloured pencil. One sec, out of somewhere. I got to figure out which drawer. I tidied the drawers with. Do you know, I haven't got any coloured pencils, watercolour pencils. I need some oil on these drawers, I know that. That's strange, can't find me pencils. Alright then. You are, Dawn, just trying to come to terms with losing me dad, yeah, I understand. Yeah. It's not easy times. It's not easy times. Someone's pinched my pencils. Never mind, we'll have to do without pencils. I was going to say, if you've got them anyway, you can maybe use some watercolour pencils like white and light to lift bits out. But we haven't got any, so we're just going to have to we're going to have to work with paint. Just give me an hour or so. I dropped the brush. I can't find the brush. Right. Okay, what we're going to do now then is gradually lift out the colour in the bird's head and start darkening it down and making the area look, give it some colour. It wants that sheen to it. That's the awkward thing, to get that sheen. So we'll start by darkening down the cap and around it, and then pick out the sheen inside. So you want to use your French ultramarine and your crimson, what we used down here when we made the dark. So you want French ultramarine, crimson, and burnt sienna. And then afterwards you can use some real dark to get this down. Right. Go around. I'll zoom in as far as I can. There you go. Go into the darker areas and start darkening down, back sort of towards the eye a bit. Not all the way, just back from the beak a bit. And just the sort of the feeling of the cap on the head, just sort of a curve like that, just feeling of the cap on the head. And then go to the back and come down the outside and just pull. Maybe gotta find a brush. Just pull some dark from the back. I'm just gonna find a brush for this because it needs doing with a finer brush. Just pulling back and just creating some looser feeling of feathers. Just flicking the outside edge. Rather than it being dead smooth. Take that dark back there like that. These brushes are too small for me to use. I mean, look at the size of them. I know Jan gets away with the small ones, but I can't get away with the small ones. Right, round the back. Now go underneath the beak, join it up to the dark at the top, and probably go back to the fractionally bigger brush. Strong under the beak like that. Fetch the paint forward so it doesn't come down behind that. Fetch it forward and then fetch it back. So you want that to look as though it's going farther down. So you fetch it forward, fetch it back, darken down into the throat like that. Now you can add some Payne's grey now, just using the fine brush. Add some Payne's grey and really sort of make that stronger in this area here. Just sort of round the edge of the throat. Just the odd touch just up there, like that. I'm going to do this one with the same while I'm on, and then just work across each one rather than change colours all the time. So get the dark, just go underneath the beak. Nice and strong. Fetch it out across the under of the head sort of thing, into the neck, into the throat a bit, and then take it down. It wants to go a bit farther forward as well. Wants to just go a bit farther forward and fetch it down around to the throat. Fetch it down the back of the neck there, and again flick one or two little bits out, just dragging it broken. Don't need to make it too precise, just dragging it sort of broken out into the back of the head, so you get a sense of soft feathers just round there. Yeah, right. And then into the, pull a few back from there. Now use the dark again and just go across the top of the eye a bit and into the cap. So across the top of the eye and into the cap, just getting them darker. what you want now is you need to get a hint of green into this, like a shimmer. So I would get, I'm just going to pick a brush for this, I would just get a little bit of cerulean blue. A little bit of cerulean blue, and mix a little bit of cadmium yellow in with it. Just a little bit of cadmium yellow in with the cerulean blue. And just try to get a green tinge into there. We'll use gouache afterwards. Just try and get a green tinge. Can you see it just there, ever so lightly? Just that green tinge just coming around there. Blend the blue back into it a bit from the dark, so it's not too sudden of a transition. It wants to be a gentle transition across like that. And you can drop a little bit of that green into here as well, I think. Just into there like that. I've got a lot of detail to put into this, picking out it, just building up the levels. I need to just darken that top of that cap a little bit with a bit more of the dark colour just across there. And then you actually want some little bits of red. So I would get cadmium red, mix a little bit of yellow with it so it's not too strong of a red, so a little bit of cadmium yellow mixed in with it so it's warmer. And you've got to put that in round the eye. I'll just put it in with this bigger brush and then I'll shape it up afterwards. So that wants to go round the eye, this sort of cadmium red feel, just into there like that. You can just see it going out towards the beak, and it's a bit darker there, but it's just round there, this sort of like red area, just round the eye. That's alright, that's a start. We've got that. Now what I'll tell you what to do, just wet your brush and just drop a little bit of water in where we put the green. Just not a lot, just drop a little drop of water in the centre of the green. And just leave it alone, and it should spread outwards and lighten the centre and darken the backs a bit. We're going to come back. Excuse me. Sorry. Rod, just got into Pheasants 2. Had difficulty with the link. I saw you at the beginning, Rod. You were there at the beginning. You were there at the beginning, Rod. I'm sure I saw you at the beginning. You had difficulty with the link. It was me who had the difficulty with the link. Right. All right then. Rod's just joined us. Nearly finished, Rod. It'll only take another 6 weeks. Right, so we're building it up bit by bit, each level, working our way around it. So what you want now is a darker tone just above the top of that. So get some crimson with a little bit of burnt sienna. Crimson, a little bit of burnt sienna. It's a matter of building level. So you paint that area that's just above the top of the sort of the wing. It sort of starts from just where the beak is and comes down, gets a bit wider there. So that's just round the beak. That sort of goes down to an edge there. So it's just stronger in that top area. Just leaving it maybe a bit stronger. I'm going to add a bit more crimson into the burnt sienna. Just make it that little bit stronger. Yeah, that's better. Just dropping a little bit more strength into it. And that sort of comes down that area there. And leave that area with the wing just lighter for the moment. And then using the same colours but quite strong. You want the crimson to be quite sort of strong. Just getting some. I'm having to use this to get some crimson out. Quite strong. And pull that. That's it. Pull that into the the front there. Strong like that as you're coming down and round the back up to there, to about there. Then wet your brush and get a mixture of cadmium red and yellow, sort of what you use to drop into the eye, just a mixture of it before this dries, and just pull that down and soften the blend. So you're pulling the crimson down into it, taking it out round the edges like that, across the top of the body there, just pulling it out like that. Drop a little bit more burnt sienna crimson into that. Wants to be darker up there, and then gradually just teasing out into light round as it comes round the outside. So down this area, darker, and as it's coming round the body that way and up that way, it wants more of the yellow ochre and red. Sorry, the yellow and red putting into that area. And then you need to just see where the very light patches at the top. Just get some water. Dry the brush off a bit so it's not too full, and just tease that out to go up to meet that, to blend it. So it's a softer blend all around. It doesn't suddenly end and then go. So just pushing that into there like that, dropping the colour in, letting it blend. To the same down the bottom area, just let it blend down into these lighter yellow ochres just down here. So yellow and burnt sienna. So I'm using cadmium yellow, but I'm mixing it with some burnt sienna. Just varying the colours. Just that's it, and just sort of creating. I'm going over all the colours again, bit by bit, and just creating this roundness. So it's in there like that, but now you need to lighten it. So you need to get a little bit more yellow, cadmium yellow and red. It's a matter of dropping all the colours in here, yellows and reds, and getting this warmth and roundness. So into there now with the yellow, can you see it just sort of lightening up that area? Just across there. Blend it into the crimson that you were doing, and blend it round back to the end of the tail feather there. Pull it down and blend it underneath the bird and round to the back. And so just a matter of trying to build it up. And then I'm going to use Payne's Grey. We've got an undertone of crimson and browns. Just going to use a bit of Payne's Grey and just get this a lot darker just along the bottom end here. I need to lighten it up a little bit afterwards, just in that area there. Just darken it along there like that. Use a finer brush and just using the same Payne's Grey to darken it back. Just darken it up with touches, like to suggest feathering, that you just to say I can see underneath. Just flicks of feathering. So it's not just a solid black. And then use a little bit of light gouache, a bit of white gouache, light gouache, and just lighten up round here so you're getting a sense of reflected light off the snow bit onto the body. Just lighten it up underneath. Bit of blue in there so it just catches the a second, I can't pick the blue up. So it just has a sense of lighter area just into there. That's it, just a bit more white, just to like blend in a bit more just there. That's it. A little bit down there. That's all right. That's the sort of the bulk of it. After that, it's painting in with feathering details, etc. So we'll come up to this one, and we'll paint down to the tail. So you want your crimson, and your blue, French ultramarine crimson. Paint down from the collar. This is blue and crimson stronger. Paint down from the collar in that sort of centre, and take it down where we left a white halo because of the tail there. Just take it right down to the edge of the tail. Lift it up there, and then just wet your brush. Get a little bit of just watery crimson by itself. So just a little bit of watery crimson by itself. And take that, while it's wet, take that towards the outside edge of the bird. And then a little bit of cadmium yellow. And you put that on the outside edges and let it run back in a little bit. So you let that just sort of blend. Probably too blue, that. I think that needs a bit more crimson in there and less blue. Just a bit too blue. Yes, for definite, more crimson. Drop more crimson in. I'm just going to drop a bit more cadmium yellow in the outside edge just to fight it back. So a little bit of wet cadmium yellow just on the outside edges like that. That's what it's putting the cadmium yellow in that makes the blue sort of stand out actually. Put them into there like that. That's got to continue on round underneath. So that's got to continue down onto the side here. So you've got to just sort of move it down through there, and then we've got to use light afterwards to pick it up. So you want to start off with blue and crimson, but more on the blue side than the crimson side. So more on the blue side as you're coming down from this throat here, just under the tail. So drop the blue back into there. More on the blue, just under that tail feather, like that. Stronger like that. Then just get crimson. Then just get crimson and tease the crimson. You can drop the crimson back into the blue, but tease it outwards. Pull it down a bit. You can see the crimson there better, can't you? Just into there. And do the same as what you did before. Get a cadmium yellow. You can even use a little bit of red in with it, just cadmium red in with this. And pull the colour to the outside edge, both ways. So you're just building this nice blend up. I'm just going to get a bigger brush because that's just a bit too small for doing that. Where's me the brush? There we are. Keep losing my brushes. Right. Just going to get a bigger brush, and I'm going to just continue along like that. So with the cadmium yellow and a bit of cadmium red, just start taking it along the back here where it's lighter, and gradually just blend the crimson down into it. So you don't allow it to dry, you blend it in. You take it light around that side like that. Take it lighter all the way down the back. And I will darken behind it so that it stands out a bit better. Take it all the way down there. Now you want crimson and burnt sienna. So you want some crimson and some burnt sienna. So it's not bright, it's duller. And continue to pull that colour down that you're doing. Continue to pull that down. Just teasing it round. To about there. Go back to your yellow and red, your cadmium yellow and red, and blend that in to the outside edges like that. You're just blending, trying to get a roundness, trying to get a sense of roundness to it. And then you want a strong dark. I would use blue and crimson, but I would add some Payne's grey into it in a minute, so it's more stronger. And fetch that round these areas here, like this. And it's the same as that. We're going to have to put a bit of light over on the right hand side because it's just getting lighter over there. So it wants to start there. It wants to sort of come down, get bigger just down here, the sort of size of it, round to where the legs are going to be, out to the back a little bit. Right. Get yellow and red, a bit more on the red side, cadmium red, and blend this out. Just pushing it round the body. Blend it back up towards the crimson there. It's all about putting the undertones, the colours in underneath, and then you do the patterns. Just going to blend that in with a little bit lighter yellow just there. It's when you put the feathering in that you also create the roundness, because you use the feathering to suggest the roundness. And then just one or two flicks of blue and crimson, just to suggest a tail feather or something just back there. That's all right. We've got that colouring in. You've got to be careful when you're using gouache that you don't let your brushes dry with gouache on, because they will just spoil your brushes. Right, we'll just do this long tail feather here first, get that developed properly, and then we can start detailing. There's a bit of light across the top of here, so add a little bit of gouache to some yellow ochre, and just come back probably a bit stronger, a bit more gouache mixed in. Just come back up across the top of that back of the bird there. Just lighten that up down to there. It's like nature, you can hear the birds. I'm just going to put, while I've got that gouache with the light, I'm just going to put a sense of light just under the breast there, so it just again matches up with this and feels as though you're getting a little bit of reflection. Light, well, not reflection, but light coming off the snow. Just lighten that side of it up a little bit. That's it. Right, we'll do the tail feather and then we'll start detailing. So the tail feather wants to be stronger darks and wisps of feathering off. So I'm just going to get another brush. I'll tell you, I'll stay with the same brush for the moment. We've got a gradual bit there, a light bit. We want to make it more gradual. The the shape between them. So you want some cadmium yellow and a little bit of cadmium red in. A bit of cadmium red in there. And just where we are there, just sort of come into that tail feathering and blend that dark upwards a bit towards the sort of the lighter yellow, and just lose this yellow at the top. Just gradually take it over and lose it through there. It all depends on whether you want any reeds or stuff in front. I'll just paint through it. We'll just make it stronger. Got that into there. Lift it out the bottom a little bit. Just a little bit under there. That's it. I just want to put a little bit of shadow onto the white collar. I don't want the white collar to be too pronounced, so I would just use I would mix a bit of blue and burnt sienna, more towards the blue side, and just very, very weak, very watery, and just suggest a little bit of shadow and shape into this. Maybe too strong, that. It's got to be really watery. And just create a little sense of feathering in there. So the white isn't too bright, too dynamic. Like that. And you can do the same on that one. In fact, you can probably put it a little bit more in shadow just round that left hand side over there, so it feels as though it's turning the corner a little bit. And then we want the beaks suggesting. One of them beaks is sort of yellowy. We'll make them both the same. So the weakest of yellow ochre. The weakest of yellow ochre. Paint the bottom of the beak like that. And then water. And just wet the top of it and allow the water to push down into the rest of the beak. And then, as I say, we'll shape them round and use gouache afterwards. You want some suggestion of feet into them. Well, there'll be feet just down there, but getting lost into the snow a little bit. So I would just use I would use the blue and burnt sienna again. Just the blue and burnt sienna, sort of a watery grey, and just sort of suggest a shadow for the feet coming out. So join it up to there like that, and sort of pull a leg down a bit, and maybe another leg just stepping that way, and it wants to get sort of lost off into the snow. And then just fetch that one sort of forward a little bit. And we'll use some white gouache to bury them a little bit. That maybe could do with being a bit longer, and the foot just being a bit farther. And I'm just going to wash that in, and then I'm going to use some white gouache afterwards to pick the legs out a little bit better. I don't like that leg. It's like trying to paint human feet, and if you do too much, just get a bit more shadow. So I'm just dropping a bit more blue and burnt sienna in there, just to create a little bit more sense of shadow underneath there. And it looks like a little bit of white feathering under there as well. Start that off. This one you can probably paint in a little bit more. Looks like it's coming out from just there. and then sort of moving. How many do you have? You have 3 going forward, 1 going back or something, the bird, doesn't it? But we need to tie them to the ground. It doesn't want to look as though the feet are just floating in the air. And then 1 coming from about there. That'll do it. We'll tidy it up afterwards. Right, it's now time for starting to put sharper detail into them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the tail while this is drying. I'm going to make the tail stronger. I'll give it a little bit more strength than tail feathers. So I'm going to use a strong burnt sienna, crimson and blue. So it's a mixture of them all, so you're getting a strong dark. Strong dark. Sort of flick just under the tail feather there like that. Sorry, flick under the tail feather like that. And you can see the ones just flicking out, so just flick another one sort of out from it, sort of a split, and another one just out there, so you're sort of splitting them out a little bit, and sort of just feather them, just drag a sense of feathering back in. So just building that up, just little wisps of feathering, and then you've got to go across. And I would use a black now. I would use the Payne's grey just by itself, quite strong, and paint in the feathers. It's sort of the same as you can see just there, sort of just crisscrossing. So, and they split. So you want a sort of a, might be still wet like there, still a bit wet. Just touch it in, curve it over like that. And then just because you want to make it look as though it's split, curve it over at the other side, but don't make it bang onto that. So just sort of curve it over, stagger them a little bit. And you want to sort of get a sense of the Z feeling as you're getting farther out, like longer and coming back like that, like a longer shape coming back. It's just Payne's grey. That's all I'm using, just Payne's grey. And we'll use some very light yellow and gouache on the top to get a real nice light to the tops of them. And sort of take them out, feather them back. So taking them out, pulling them back down, like going as a curve. They should be going as a curve around the back of the tail, and just gradually getting farther apart. Painted a few pheasants before. I mean, the thing is, our gallery is directly opposite Windrow Sports, which is a sporting shop, sells guns, fishing gear, etc. And if I put a gun dog or pheasants or anything type of scene like that in the window, some of these guys coming out with the guns are over and buying them before you know what's happening. And then just very short tips now as you're coming out, and just gradually tip it out to the end like that. Make them a bit stronger just there, and you can just flick a little sense of edges on it, and that there as well. I think that looks alright. And take that right back to that edge there. And you sort of just darken it down with the Payne's grey underneath. And just continue them Zs sort of round them feathering. You need it darker so that it lifts it away from, when we put the lighting on the bird, it needs to lift this whole thing away from the bird behind it. Unless, of course, you've painted the bird in front of it, which was the original photograph. So you got round there like that. Just see if there's any more messages coming through. I don't know where my mouse has gone. No, that's it. And then you can see the same sense of the same feathering just going over the back. Now it's very narrow because it's going out of sight over the back, so don't make them broad. Don't make them broad there. They can get broader as they come round here, but over at the back they just want to be a narrow sort of suggestion. But as you're getting nearer, coming round, you can make them just that little bit more prominent. Across there. And then a darker one just across there like that, going back to there. And make that quite strong just under there. A few flicks, so you're creating a few sort of looser feathers. Can you say just a few looser flicks? I'm good at looser flicks. Right, that's all right. Like I said, I'll tell you what, I'll do it now. It gives it time to dry. I'm just going to make behind this bird stronger and darker so that it stands out a bit better. So I'm just going to get the mix you have used for the darks down here, the blue, crimson and burnt sienna, but add a bit more burnt sienna so it's not too dark. And I'm just going to go around the back of that bird there, down to its tail feathers, under there, and I'll probably have to fetch it up in front of it a little bit. If you've got it dark enough already, that's fine. So I'm just going to fetch it up there like that, take it out a bit, and then I'm just going to wet it out. Just water it out so it just blends away. And then a few sort of flicks so it just... You can put the odd flick of light in afterwards, or a darker grass here and there afterwards, but just that better. It sets that bird off a bit better. Just a little bit more underneath. That's right. Come back to that when that's dry. Right. So we need the bird's eye. What you want first of all is some cadmium yellow, just by itself, just some cadmium yellow, and just dot in the eye. That's about right. It looks bright, it's just because it's watery, that's all. It's wet, it'll dry. And then this eye, this one here, just dotting it in. And you can run that a bit watery, just a bit more watery, into the beak a little bit. And same as there, just underneath. And then we'll come back up to there and detail the beak and the eye afterwards. What you've got to get now is this feeling of shimmer onto the birds. This feeling of shimmer into the neck. So you want to use your gouache. You want to use your gouache and a little bit. I would use French ultramarine because it's brighter than cerulean. So a little bit of French ultramarine. Add some white gouache into it, and we're just going to start painting sort of the shimmer into it. So you're going into the lighter area around this area here. Just prop my paper down because it's bouncing a bit. And just touching feathering in. Can you see it? It looks brighter than it is, and that's basically because it's still wet. So I'm just touching a shimmer down there, like a little sense of feathering just sort of laid down, and a little bit round there, and then just ever so fraction across the top of the head. Now you want a bit of green into this as well, like I said, so get a little bit of yellow while you're on with that, a little bit of yellow and a little bit of gouache with the yellow. Not too yellowy, and just dry the edge of your brush off and just touch in a bit more. I'm mixing the blue with the yellow, so it's just not so bright. So I'm just mixing the wet blue with the yellow, and I'm just sort of going to touch in some little dots in amongst what I've done, which is more greeny. And then pick your blue, just go for your French ultramarine, sort of darker, separate from it, and do the same going into the dark. So you just got, I've got a little bit of gouache in just so it stands out. So you're just sort of blending them round into the darker patch you've done, but not the same intensity of light. So you're taking them round into the dark. And just sort of building up that throat colour. Do the same on this one, and then we'll come back and do bits. So the lighter blues first, and you want to sort of just round that neck there. Just, you need the finest of brushes, really. I've got a finer one. Wait a second, I've got a finer one. Hardly any brush on the end of this thing. This is just it. If I tilt it a bit, you might see it. You can see it's very wet. You'll see it when it dries out, but it's just little flicks into the neck and teasing them out as you go around the corner. So it wants to be brighter, a little bit of the green again, yellowy and bluey green. Just touching in. I actually can do better with a bigger brush. I can do better with a bigger brush than I can with that. And a bit lighter with the blue coming round from the yon side of the neck, sort of round the throat, just there. So just round there, just lighten it up just there. Take it across there a bit, just a little bit across the cap. And you're just dabbing in, so you're creating, it's like when we were doing the pass the other day, you're sort of letting the colour underneath break through in places, but just putting some light on. We're going to put some dark in there in a second, just to finish that area off. I want the red to be a bit brighter, so I'm just going to get cadmium red, and I'm just going to mix a cadmium yellow in with it, just a bit stronger. So it's not such a dull red. Just go across the top of the eye, and you see just across the top of the eye with that, and just touch into them reds, and just a few lighter spots just coming out from the edge, and then just go back into the red. Just wet your brush, get some wet red. Oops, got a lump of yellow on there. Just dry the brush off and just blend that in a bit. Same principle applies really. It's trying to leave little gaps of the original colour showing through. So you're just sort of touching in and creating these patches. Probably have to lighten the eye up a little bit. It's just a little bit too dull. Let them dry before I do that. What I'm going to do now is use some just Payne's grey with a fine brush, and just paint some darker bits into these things. I'm going to make it stronger under the beak and shape the beak out like that. I'm going to make it stronger round the eye, just round the outside of the eye. I mean, if you were painting them bigger, you would have more, be able to do more detail. It wants a dark sort of bit round the outside of the eye, just a dark area. Nothing dead solid, just a darker patch around the eye, under the beak, and just touch with the Payne's grey into these blues, just going under them and emphasising the light underneath parts of them. And then with the Payne's grey quite stronger still, create the back of the head like that, round that red, down the back, flicking it out for the neck a bit, and just fetching it forward and round, but not too far. You want to take it round the red so the red's emphasised. Put some emphasis, and then you just want to, I would just wet your brush with the Payne's grey so it's fairly wet, and just see a little bit of beak coming out. Just all you want is just a fraction of an edge just touching out. That's that. And the other beak on the other one you can see like the underneath, so you've got to go up there and just sort of suggest that curve of the top part of the beak just coming over. It's a bit thick, that I'll lighten it up. I'll have to get a smaller brush and just whiten it up. But do the same for this bird. Get your Payne's grey fairly wet. Go around the outside of the eye and the outside of the red. Darken it up to the cap. Underneath of the red. Darken it down the back. And just fetch a shimmer of feathering round the corner. Underneath there. I'm going to let that dry before I put that centre of them eyes in, because they're just a bit too wet round there. So what you've got to do now is start building up the light of it. So you want the warmth to come through on these areas here. We'll probably, I'm just going to run a little bit more shade into that collar. I just felt it was just a bit too bright. We need to take that red up into there, don't we? So I left a gap there. Right. Payne's grey, fairly strong, fine brush, and come along the back and create the same pattern as what you've done here, but flatter because it's over the top. So just sort of little touches like that. We need some white feathering in as well, in places, all little light catches on the bird. I'm going to put all the black in, and then you can use some light to lighten up parts. So I'm just going to get the black. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'm not. I'm going to get the yellow. I'm going to get a bigger brush, and I'm going to get the yellow and red with some gouache. So I'm mixing some cadmium yellow with some cadmium red, but more on the yellow side. And I'm just going to mix a bit of gouache in with it so that it lightens it up a little bit. Put more yellow into it. So it wants to be more on the yellowy side than the red side, and just a bit of white gouache into it. And just touch round this area here. That's it, just little touches round here. Just a little sort of sense of light shimmering around the edges, sort of the sense of the feathering. You're going to put dark in, but you want this sort of feeling of just a little bit of light into this top part of the body. And a bit more yellow, because I'm looking at that other one, it's definitely a bit more yellower than this one, so I'm making it brighter around these areas here. So I'm brightening this area up with touches of yellow. And just sort of dab it in so that you get a sense of feathering. It's a technical term, dabbing in. Flick it out to the dark there. Now as you come round, add a little bit more red into the yellow. So as you're coming round into here, a bit more red in. And the same sort of just pushing bits in. You're trying to create a feathered feel to it. So you're just pushing colour in, leaving some of the original darker colour just showing through. You sort of take that around that bottom end there a bit. Excuse me, into there. Just a little bit up there. Right, get some crimson, just crimson. And, excuse me, and some white gouache. So mix some crimson with some white gouache. And you want to create a sense of feathering, of light feathering into this. So it's crimson gouache, and I'm coming from the lighter area, and I'm just sort of doing the same as what I've done around there, just sort of dotting in and just creating this sort of pattern. Light around there as she's coming round to the outside edge, so you're just putting sort of blobs in, leaving some of the original colours showing through. You can make it light as it goes round the top area there, so you can just drop in some lighter colours just round there. We'll mix more yellow into that area. Just sort of stagger them down. Now as you're getting farther in, more of the crimson and less of the gouache. You want a little bit of gouache in, otherwise it will not stand out, but more of the crimson. Need a bit more gouache in there. That's it. And you're just blending them in. So you're just putting enough in to sort of tone the sort of the breast out of it. So you're just creating them little shimmers of light in. You don't want to be too bright around this middle area. You want it lighter as it's going out into the light, but you want it just darker into here. And you're going to actually put some blacks in amongst there, feathering in amongst there as well. So you build that. You can do the same on this one over the other side. So you can do this one with the lighter area into the center. Can you see just little staggered patches? But lighter as you're going around the outside edge. So add a bit more gouache into your crimson as you're going around the outside edge there. And then come down the center area. It's like layered. See what I mean? Just stagger them. They look very bright them at the moment, but it's because they're wet. They will dry just that bit paler on you. And as you're getting farther down, more crimson and less of the white gouache. And you carry that down through there like that. Right? Now you want to change over to sort of a yellowy feel on parts of it. So you want some cadmium red and yellow. Cadmium red and yellow. And just mix a bit of gouache in with that. Make sure it's more on the yellow side, but mix a bit of gouache in with it, otherwise it'll not stand out so bright. And as you're turning round into the light round here, as you're going round into light, and do it round here as well, as you're turning round into the light, just touch in more. Can you see the yellows and reds? So you're just turning it lighter on the outside edge. So around here, whoops, paper moved. Can you see like that? Just bands of the brighter yellow, and round this side as well. So you would fetch it forward in sort of a band. Maybe a little bit more gouache going round onto the far side. And it wants to curve. It does need a bit more. Just get a bit more gouache out, a bit more white gouache out. It wants to curve because you want this sense of roundness to the body, so the lines have to curve, not just the shadows, but the lines themselves have to curve. So you're mixing a bit more white in there, just with that yellow. That's better. Just couldn't get it right. And it's a curve round. Imagine drawing a curve like that. So just dabbing in like that and curving gradually round to the light. A little bit more up there because I was just losing it. And then just taping this down. Just do a few like that. Just getting it started, and then take it to a deeper yellow. So add a bit more yellow into the mix and less of the gouache. So a bit more yellow into the mix. That's it, and just start making it deeper. And you take it round the other side. like that. Now then, what you've got to do is get that crimsony shimmer in there as well now. So you want the white mixing in with some of your crimson, and you want that blended in and blending into them yellows. So there's a soft transition from one to the other. So you're just dropping them in and pushing them round. And leaving some of the darks just showing through. Down here it gets really darker anyway, so you don't want to be doing this all the way down. And you can fetch that out into that yellow like that. And what you can do now is just get crimson, fairly wet, just get crimson and just water it down and into the rest of the body down here, just watery crimson, just dabbing it in. Just watery crimson and just dabbing it in till you get about down to here. Now you can add a little bit of the lighter crimson with the gouache in just round this outside edge here, so you can add a little bit of the lighter crimson so it feels like it's turning round into the light a little bit. And then you want to carry on down there. You want the yellow, but you want a bit more burnt sienna into the yellow, so it's just a slight bit darker. You want a little bit more gouache into that. That's it. And just do the same as what you've been doing, just fetching them round, curving them round like that. Then once we get this dry, then we're going to put the black feathering in. Just try and create as a shimmer from one to the other. Now you want it strong. I would use a strong Payne's grey now and come into this bottom area with a strong Payne's grey. What you want to do is be separating the legs, because that's a leg there, can you see? Coming down to the white, and that other leg is just into there. So you're sort of separating the legs a bit just there. Quite strong. Now blend that upwards. Get a little bit of wet crimson, and blend that gradually upwards. So there's just a softer transition all around up there. And you could come down and sort of suggest the leg just coming out and sort of sitting into the snow there, and the same over there. While you're on, find a bush now. You might as well put the darks in round there. Sorry, I've got hiccups. Payne's grey, fine a brush, and you're going to go around this bird and put the darks in. So down the bottom part of it, the bigger and stronger, finer farther up. So start round there on the outside edge, little touches like diamonds sort of stuff, and fetching them round to curve round, and they blend in to this Payne's grey and go out the other side. So you do another level, just stagger them so they're not the same. So you stagger the shapes of these feathers so they're not in one sort of line all the way. And they need to be slightly broader, slightly thick down here, thinner up here but thicker down here, and just curving away upwards. Now as the bird is getting down, you don't see it as broad because it's curving underneath, so you get thinner the lines. So they're just sort of thinner patches. Down through there. And as you're coming farther up, they're thinner still. So just a fine brush and just paint them in finer. So if you've got a fine enough brush, I mean, you need a fine brush. I know some people have really fine brushes, but these are too stubby. These, I mean, that's fine, but it's too stubby for me. I need something with a longer point. And you've got to go under the yellow. You've sort of got to go under the yellow bits that you've done and just emphasize them. Just touching in under the yellow. I still want to go back to a bigger brush. I'm going back to a bigger brush and just using the point of it. And the same principle, you're curving it round. Now, they want to be fairly close together, these, when they're getting up there. Just dropping them in quite close together. And you're taking this round here, and you're painting them in amongst the lighter crimsons and darks you use. And again, you stagger them. So you emphasize the light patches that you've just done with the gouache, but you stagger them, so there's not a long line of gap going between. And you take that round the body the other way, like that, taking them up. If anybody knows the bird whistles, I don't know what that one is, that's whistling outside the window. And you fetch them around, and we're going to, when it's dry, we're going to flick some highlights of brighter, lighter feathers in, because if you look at them around there, there is some brighter touches, but we need to let this sort of dry. And you can just sort of lose that into there like that. Like I said, when it's dry, we'll flick some very lighter ones in to pick out the shimmer. Actually, that body looks as though it could have a bit more lump just there. So come over to this one and sort of do the same. Get your paints grey. And what you do is you paint in, see the light patches that we've put there? You need to paint in just below them and just emphasize them a little bit. And you're curving it away around the body, so it just very light touches around there, curving away, so just very light touches. It's only when you come into the center that you start to make them bigger. Just emphasize that color a little bit there. So where the lighter bits were, I'm just emphasizing in. And like I say, we'll come back in and pick some lighter bits themselves out. Just darkening under that throat a bit. So you're going up and around the body like that. Just lighter touches across the top because you're not seeing them that clear, and then gradually broadening them out as you come farther down. What I'll do is I'll find my pencils out, because you could actually use a light pencil to feather into some of these. Always remembering to stagger them so you're not leaving a line right through them all, a light line right through them. It's sort of closer together as you're coming around there. And as you're coming around here, just thinner. The broader there where you can see it, but as they're coming round underneath, they're thinner lines, and they're just forming this curve round the body. It sounds like the repair shop round here with all that the birds singing outside. I could watch that repair shop for ages. I think it's brilliant. So we build up the solidness, the roundness. We're putting the darks in, and then we're going to do, not now because it's obviously getting late, we're going to do some light patches in and lift some feathering out in places. And these want to sort of vanish as though they're going to the tail, like that. So we've still got to get that sense of shimmer on this translucency, which we'll do with some lighter colouring afterwards. Just picking out like brighter parts of the feathering, the lighter parts, because we've got the darks and the mid-tones. We need to pick out some lighter bits. Just suggesting that. Right, I'll just do this, if I can get it fine enough, just do around this eye. In fact, what I'll not do around the eye, I'm going to lighten that eye up. So I'm just going to dry my brush off, get rid of any paint that's on it. Some bright yellow, some gouache with it, otherwise it'll just dry dull. So you need gouache in with the white. A big brush but a fine tip. And just lighten that eye up and that eye up. That's better. Let them dry, and then while you're on with get a bit of the gouache as well, a bit more white into it. So just a little bit of yellow, but more white into it. So it's not white, but it's not yellow. And just create a little bit of light across the top of this tail here. Just flicking across the top and down into the tail a little bit, like the same as you've done with the black, just in between, and then just curving it down into it a bit. So you're just creating that lighter top to that feathering so it stands out against the bird behind it. And you probably have to keep dipping. See how it dulls down that eye. It won't be as dull when you put a black pupil in, but you do need to keep dipping some. With gouache, you find you need to do it 2 or 3 times to take the solidness out of it, the dullness out of it. There's a little sense of light coming around there, and a little bit into the legs. Right, what time is it? I think we'll leave it at that, and we'll start a new one on next Wednesday, but I'll finish this one off as well next Wednesday. I'll just zoom out and see what it's like, because I want to go back in. I mean, that's looking all right, but I want to go back in and get that shimmer. I want to shimmer around here and in the neck, and a bit of a shimmer around there. So I need to put more light. The tail looks all right. I think I'm happy enough with the tail. Apart from that white bit of snow behind it, I might have to darken that down. So I think we'll leave it like that. And I'll sort of, yeah, I think it's fine. I'm going to lighten that up for definite, just to lift the colour out and lift some lights into the yellows, into the sort of the side of the body, so it lifts it out a little bit and makes it stand out. So if you're all right with that, I've got lights on now. It's getting darker in here. Yeah, so I'll be doing what we're doing. Oh, we're doing David Bowie tomorrow, and I'll be down the gallery on Friday doing a pastel. I'm going to do a pastel of the Ullswater. We did it as a watercolor once before. I'm going to just do it as a pastel just to show. I know I'm doing lots of pictures, and I know you can't all be there all the time at all. It's not going to be every day, but you'll still get the pictures. So don't worry if you've got something else to do. I suppose just I'll allow you to go out. I'll allow you to do other things. But I'm just painting because I'm enjoying painting, so I'm just painting. So I will keep them, save them for you. So go out on Friday if you want. Don't you feel the need to stay in and watch me work? If you come down, pop in. I don't know how we're allowed for coffee. You can come up the gallery, you can come up the stairs. Are you allowed to sit down and drink a coffee? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But anyway, we'll get this finished next week, plus something else. Just move me comments to see if there's. Oh, sorry, there's more. Oh, sorry, loads of comments. I haven't seen them. And I got straight in. Have no problem commenting. The biggest problem is I forgot it was on this evening. You can't remember two things together. Janet, thanks, Rick. Nice job. Thank you. Ken, looks very good. Wish I had me gun. Aye, I know. Thank you, Alison. Jen, looks fab. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Heather. Nice to see you tomorrow. That's the picture, by the way. That's looking all right. That's looking all right. We just need to fetch the birds a fraction more to life, but looking good. Looking good. The pheasants are standing out from the background. Yeah, they need to. That's pheasants always look nice against snow. I've painted them a few times. Like I said, I know if I paint them, I can sell them by putting them. I'll put them in the window opposite the sports shop, and they'll sell. Not if Ken's around with his gun, he won't like. Right, all right then, folks. I'll hopefully tomorrow won't have that loud, horrible noises. Whatever it was, I turned off. I'll find out what it was. So we'll see you in the morning. I'm going to have a bit of sleep between now. I'll see you in the morning. So, night night, and we'll carry on afterwards.